Welcome to more World of Warplanes content from the Noble Queue, and in this video we're going to take our second look at the Vultee XP-54, this time in battle conditions, and try to establish whether it's worth the time and effort required to go through the chain of combat missions to obtain this aircraft. So let's take a look at the XP-54 in the hangar for the first time. Now I've expanded these down here so that if you want you can pause the video and have a quick look at these figures, and for that I'll just scroll down here now so you can see the altitude performance as well. But what I want to do before I show you the spreadsheet that I constructed in my previous video with extra information filled in, now that we have it here, is what the aircraft feels like when it's raw. So we'll just close these up again now, and we'll take the information from these sections into the spreadsheet. I've already done that. Here's one I made before. What we'll do now is we'll look at the Vultee in its stock configuration with an untrained pilot and no equipment and consumables, and as we can see the manoeuvrability is 49, well that was trailed before, airspeed 58, altitude performance 56. These are figures that you will have seen in my previous video, but if we look at the service, as a stock aircraft you will have 3 equipment slots available to you. One for the cockpit, so you'll probably put a gun sight in there, one for the engine. You could boost the speed, you could go for a lightweight airframe, I beg your pardon, a lightweight power unit. Forward firing weapon, got a number of choices there, and with heavy cannons I like to increase the rate of fire, other people will probably like to increase the range. You've got 4 slots for consumables, and probably you'll put a I would put a fire extinguisher in there. Airframe, I'd go for the pneumatic control assist to give me extra manoeuvrability for 10 seconds. Engine cooling for 10 seconds of extra boost so I can get away from anything pursuing me, and then the standard ammunition will be replaced by universal ammunition. So if we now just quickly switch to the specialist configuration, and I've already specialized this aircraft by using tokens, and we now look at the service, and if we pop in a pilot who's experienced, and for this purpose I'm going to pop in my pancake pilot, I think. Notice that you have got a special pilot that comes with the Swooze Goose, but he's nothing special. So there's my pancake pilot, and now we can quickly see that airspeed has shot up to 65, manoeuvrability to 54, and the altitude performance has increased a little as well, so already you're seeing benefits. Although all of this equipment is ultimate, I haven't calibrated any of it at all, so bear that in mind. There is more to come here. And as you can see, what I've put on is the gun sight, the lightweight power unit, here the uprated engine for extra speed, and then the gas operated action so that I have a higher rate of fire. And I anticipated these guns would be slow firing, and the heat cooling cycle would be tricky to manage. Well, you'll see what that's like in the battle to come. And here's the consumables. I have put the 4 in that I mentioned previously, and then I've also put in the restart. You could possibly consider putting in the mixture if you wanted a bit more speed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the workbook. So here we are with the workbook, and we're looking for the figures that are bold and in red. These are the figures that we didn't have previously, and you can see they're in the survivability, airspeed, manoeuvrability and altitude performance section. So let's go straight to those. We've already reviewed the guns. There are of course no bombs and rockets on this aircraft, and we see for survivability that the damage resistance is 50. This is pretty standard, so nothing to worry about there. However, the fire resistance, at least compared to the other heavies in this tier, is quite poor. So you may want to think about improving the aircraft's ability to resist fire, or you may just want to try and avoid getting shot. If we drop down to airspeed, we can see that the missing cruise speed is 332, and that's the fastest in class. The maximum boost speed is however 382, and allowing for the fact that the Mosquito FB-26 may have the wrong information, that's the 3rd fastest in class, 4th fastest in class, unless that Mosquito figure is wrong. Boost duration, it's on the low side at 25, but it's perfectly adequate. If we now look at manoeuvrability, and the 2 that we're missing were minimum opt speed and maximum optimum speed, and I said these probably weren't that important, but in fact I think I was wrong, because if I read this correctly, the minimum optimum speed is the lowest in class, and the maximum optimum speed, which is a little bit odd, it looks as if that would have to be in a dive, but the information I'm seeing here at first blush is that this has a large envelope in which its manoeuvrability and other characteristics are not affected, and that's bigger than any of the other envelopes in any of the other heavies, so that's a considerable advantage as well, or at least it appears to be. And if we drop down to altitude performance, I guess that this would be probably at 13,123 feet, like the Grumman XP-50 and some of the other aircraft here. It still lags behind the P-38J Lightning, but it is definitely second in class because it's 13,451 feet. It's all good news. So this is the Asian border cataclysm map for the Bomber Escort mission, and if you don't know about the Bomber Escort mission, you have one overriding strategic objective. Bomber flights will appear on your side of the map, and you need to get at least 10 bombers from the flights that appear across to the enemy side of the map to win the game. Alternatively, you can shoot down all the enemy aircraft and that will also win the game. On the way, apart from encountering enemy aircraft that will try and shoot down your bombers, and you of course, there are strongholds which you can see in red on the mini-map down in the right hand corner, bottom right hand corner. Those are AA points, and they will also try and shoot down your bombers. So if you can clear those by shooting down targets over them, or indeed destroying them with ground attackers, so ground attackers can be on the attacking side, although they can't be on the defending side in this particular event, the strongholds can be eliminated progressively, and the bombers can fly past unimpeded. During the course of the battle, the strongholds will regenerate as fresh bomber flights are generated from your side of the map. So tactically, you want to try and eliminate strongholds, and you want to try and eliminate the enemy. What could be simpler? Now, I haven't shown you the normal map for the normal pre-battle maps here, because unfortunately they're bugged and they showed that I was on the defending side. So I just want to reiterate that I am on the attacking side here. I'm escorting the bombers. And there's no point in looking at the order of battle particularly. We'll just glance at it. What I will say is that in this particular mode, heavies are probably your best choice, and there's an awful lot of specialised aircraft on the enemy team, but a lot of them are fighters or multi-roles, so it's not as formidable a team as it might first appear. So, are the guns of the XP-54 a weak point? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is a gun test. So here we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It took 12 shots before my guns even started to overheat, and you saw the rate of fire, admittedly boosted by my gas-operated action. Gentlemen, if these guns are reasonably accurate, then this plane is very formidable indeed, because those guns do not overheat very quickly, and I thought they would. So I've now in the course of this, I was also trying to see how fast I could get to the stronghold. I'm first there, so I'm going to meet all the enemy aircraft, and there is a fairly inevitable result coming up. I swing round, I've got lots of enemy aircraft on my tail, and I'm anxious to see if I can hit something to see how quickly I can strip it down. I start hitting the ME-410, and look how fast that started disappearing. This comes at a cost. I have at least 8 or 9 enemies behind me. They've probably seen me. They're probably thinking, look at that wallet warrior in his specialised XP-54, let's have him. And that's exactly what happens. So, it may not look like too auspicious a start to the battle, but what we found out is that the guns on the XP-54 are very good, which means they're not a weak point. So we spawn in, and we head back to the stronghold, following in the bomber flight. And now I'm going to try and play a little bit better. I'm going to try and select targets a little bit more carefully, rather than just dash in and see what I can hit first time. And I remember that I've got that good altitude performance, so although I don't use a lot of it in this battle, and I probably will in future, I do gain a bit of altitude here. And I do want to just point out, this is the very first battle that I've had in this aircraft. It's not one that I've selected out specially, it's just the first battle to see exactly how it feels first time. And I think you'll probably be reasonably impressed. So I start setting about the heavies, and you're beginning to see immediately these are really good guns. and this is a really manoeuvrable heavy as well. And many of the fighters and multi-roles will be concentrating on trying to take down the bombers, which means that you don't have to worry too much about them outmanoeuvring you for most part. And this bomber flight is pretty well defended, so I'm going to go off, use the speed and the altitude, and try and find other targets. Now, one thing that's missing from here is the fact that initially you have 70 aircraft, a pool of 70 aircraft. Now you've got the normal team of 12, so what that means is that there are 70 replacements that you can have on the attacking side. It's only 48 on the defending side, so you have the advantage. If you can keep knocking the enemy down quickly enough, they will run out of aircraft before you do. There goes the Spitfire. Work over a P-51D, and they just melt. Thank you very much. 490 DPS with these guns. The Tornado turns towards me and quickly realizes that's not a good idea. I realize he's not trying to turn with me, so I chase him. Just have to adjust the aim slightly there, and down he goes. And then I chase a bot heavy. Now the Mosquito's got 400 hit points, and you can see that lasted about 3 seconds under the volley of fire. No overheating. In fact, I can't remember overheating the guns in this battle. I didn't have to. Doesn't seem to be a lot wrong with the accuracy either. And I was so fast I didn't realise I got to the end of the map. That's a tactical error because I'm pinned against the map, and that allows the enemy to concentrate on me. I get after a KO-102. Now I said in my previous video that possibly you'd want to fly away from a KO-102. I decide to chance my arm here and I get away with this one. You'll see later in the video that I take on a KO-102 and it's specialised, if I remember correctly, and I lose out to it. So you do want to fly away from specialised Japanese heavies, but all the others you just outturn. So this is my second respawn. I've been shot down twice, that's for sure. Whether you think that's the third spawn or the second spawn is up to you. Gain a little bit of height. I'm right at the end of the map now, and you can see that the strongholds have regenerated in the centre of the map, having previously been eliminated. So far we've got 4 out of 10 bombers through, so we haven't done so well. But what I can tell you is that the enemy have lost a lot of aircraft in stopping the first few flights, and they will eventually get into trouble. And here's the KI-102, the specialised one, which I decide to have a turn fight with. And here, bearing in mind I haven't calibrated the XP-54, you can see that I lose out. I could have shot a bit better. If I hadn't shot so badly, maybe I'd have won this battle. But in terms of turning, the KI-102 has got the advantage when it's specialised. So, as I said in my video previously, don't turn with the Japanese heavies, fly away from them, and then readdress them when you have an advantage positionally, and that will be either from above or from behind. So we spawn in again, and we go to protect the nearest bomber flight. We'll just have a quick look at the score. We can see that I'm top of my team. And I think if I glance correctly, the unspecialised XP-54 that was on my team with me is second. I'm denied the opportunity there. The enemy seems to have run out of aircraft above its stronghold. The bomber flight is progressing. And now I'm going to use the dive characteristic. Well, a nice dive. No end result, of course, because the enemy aircraft was shot down by the rear gunner of the plane he was attacking. I decide to take out the fighter, the Yak-9 with the big cannon, rather than take the heavy, because that's less manoeuvrable and I feel like I can address it at another point. Find a Mosquito 26. I extinguish the fire. tail is damaged, so the flying becomes a little more awkward, but I still chase the XP-51, the Mustang 51, P-51 of course, and then I decide to get the hell out of dodge and then come back. I come back to address the P-51D. 1837 feet are the range of the cannons. No bother knocking down such a light fighter, of course. Turn to face the oncoming enemy aircraft. The heavy I just simply avoid. I shoot the Yak 9, take half its health. I think that's a Spitfire that ignored me. Well, that wasn't a very good idea. And then I fly back towards the stronghold. I get shot from behind, and then I fly at an ME-410, and that's not a good idea. This is the one aircraft that can out DPS me, and I lose my aircraft. And here again, spawn in. And I'm going to mention rather poignantly, Rosie the cat is sitting here watching this video with me, and there'll be a video up on Friday which will explain why that's very poignant. So if I tear up in a moment or two, you'll understand why. So I'm a long way from any activity here, and now we can see that the enemy have lost all their respawns. We still have 31. Look at the top of the screen. Now we have 30. But basically, any enemy aircraft we now shoot down means we'll not come back into the battle. We find the tornado. We dispose of the tornado. Miss the P-51D. Get set on fire. Decide to keep flying away. I've engaged engine cooling to do that. But bots being bots and multi-rolls, they stick on, and even though I fly to the end of the map, one of them decides to chase me. I don't notice it. I make a turn here, and that's a mistake. In fact, it was a specialised fighter. But the point is, he can't be attacking bomber flights. You can kite aircraft away from bomber flights. That's a good tactic. And here we go. We spawn in again. And this time we're quite close to the enemy aircraft. Looking for a target. Multi-roll decides to come at me. This time I don't hit him particularly hard. So I chase after the specialised heavy, which ignores me because he realises he needs to shoot down bombers. It's the ME-410 that I believe shot me down before. Disappears very quickly, and so does the Mosquito that ahead of him as well. I melt a Spitfire. Look for the Yak 9, that goes as well. There goes the ace. Now in this mode, aces are much easier to obtain, so that's not particularly impressive, but it's nice to get. And now the enemy is down to a single aircraft. So I go swing round, and if we shoot down this aircraft, even though we've only got 4 out of 10 bombers through, we will win this game. And he's shot down by my team, and that's the end of the battle. So some event-specific medals there, plus the ace and the winged legend, and just shy of 30,000 personal points in my very first game in the Vultee XP-54. Not too shabby. So let's take a look at the results of this battle, and remember, as a Flaming Hawk battle rather than the standard conquest mode, the rewards are a lot greater. It was a 4 chevron battle, or a grade 2 heavy fighter, and the gross income was 334,377 credits, or silver if you prefer. There's a premium account bonus with 111,000 credits approximately due to the premium account. If we look over in the message box, we can see for being shot down 5 times, the repair costs were 10,000. I'm using prepaid consumables, so there were no further expenses. 11,874 combat experience, again with the premium account bonus and other bonuses, this being the first win of the day, of course. 593 free experience, again with the bonus. And medals, some special medals for the Flaming Hawk event, and the familiar ace and winged legend. If we look at the personal score, we can see that 2 of the class-specific missions were completed, One wasn't, which is why it was only a 4 chevron battle. Personal points of 29,575. Again, this is a Flaming Hawk event battle, so this is not a particularly spectacular score. It's a decent score. 2 sectors were captured, 21 aerial targets destroyed, 4,851 damage to aerial targets, critical damage of 21. I was destroyed 5 times, capture points 300, and as you can see, that was all for attacking. I was on the attacking side, so there were no defending points possible. If we look at the team score, we can see that was enough for first place both by personal points and by chevrons. There were some high scores here in terms of personal points. The other XP-54 did pretty well, and I don't think he was specialised. And on the enemy team, some decent contributions from aircraft that I wouldn't necessarily, for the most part, apart from the ME-410 and the KO-102, say were suitable for this event. So, now we've had a second look at the Vultee XP-54, and this time in battle conditions. We already knew that his altitude performance was good, that his manoeuvrability was good, although we have established that it should fly away from Japanese heavies that are specialised, preferably in a dive, rather than engage them in turn fighting. It of course outclasses all the other heavies at its tier, and probably most of the tier 7 ones as well, again, apart from the Japanese ones. We knew that it was fast with an excellent dive characteristic, but what we didn't know was how the guns would perform. Well, the answer is the guns are excellent, and this is a very strong aircraft. The one minor weakness is the resistance to fire damage. In the hands of a skilled pilot and suitably equipped, this is going to be a very formidable aircraft, and I predict it will become the tier 6 heavy of choice. I hope you found something interesting in this video, and that if you did, you'll come back and see future content on this channel. But until then, this is the Noble Q, also known as Royal Flying Corps, signing out.